All right. All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Fall into Tech podcast hosted by Michael Rodriguez and myself, Jamil Madden. We're two Marines turned techies. And on this podcast, we chat with fellow veterans about their journey from military to the tech sector, and as well as other tech professionals in hopes of helping you with your tech career.
Yeah, tune in weekly for guest interviews where we discuss specific tech roles, different career paths, and just overall tips for succeeding in tech. And today we have Charnice Tatum. Thank you, Charnice, for joining us here. Charnice is a former Marine turned compliance engineer. So we'll kind of dig into the Marine Corps career as well as tech career. And I actually met Charnice, I don't know if you remember, through Keith Pickering, who actually was our last guest here. Um, he actually introduced me to you when we had a call about just getting to tech and all that stuff. So it's good to have you on here now that you're officially working in tech.
Yes, I'm glad to be here. So thank you for reaching out to me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for joining. And yeah, we start off with asking our guests for a fun fact about themselves. So what do you got for us?
A fun fact about myself is I'm a lazy gardener. I just buy a whole bunch of plants, set them outside, and if they belong here in the world, they'll thrive. And if not, they'll die. So, I got a lot of stuff growing, but a lot of
What do you
stuff
got
did
growing?
die. I have like a bunch of herbs. You can
Ooh,
neglect those for the rest of your days and they'll thrive. Um, I have some collard greens, some kale, spinach, um, and I have a bunch of fruit trees and berry bushes and stuff too.
it's awesome.
Nice. Only the strong plants survive. Got it.
Mm-hmm. Fend for yourself.
um, Well, Devil Dog, tell us, why did you choose to join the Marines instead of another branch?
Well, in high school, all of my friends, we were interested in the military, and a few of my friends that were in the grade above me, they were talking about, oh man, forget the army and all that stuff, go to the Marines. And then I got more interested, and then I think I enrolled in a DEP program in my 11th grade year, and I was like, well, it's just a better branch to my little 18-year-old brain. Um, so that's what I did.
And you did like what, 7 years? So you must have liked a little bit. Um, Tell us, I want to know, what your MOS was and all that. But before we recorded, you were saying that how you got in around 2012 and got out around 2020. Yeah, tell us about your MOS and what units and maybe some sort of uh, yeah, duty stations you were a part of.
Okay, so I was a 3051 or supply. Bullets don't fly without supply. So I went to, I guess, North Carolina for training school. Then I got sent over to 29 Palms, armpit of America, because it really does stink there in the summer. But I enjoyed it there, and there was a 4-year duty station, so my entire contract was there. But when I got out, I was with my ex-husband, and we moved to Japan, and that's where I spent some time. And then I came back to America, and I enrolled in the reserves for 3 years. But yeah, I got out after that because of the standards. And they kind of bullied me into getting into shape very quickly after my pregnancy. So I was like, you know what? My contract is up. I don't really need this. So I'm out.
Whew, damn. Um, we were talking about like gear a little bit before we hit record, and it just happens that you were in supply. Like, what am I? Was I missing out? Like, was the new like the new packs that the new Marines have, are they better than, like, I don't know? We had like the Woodland, like the main pack and stuff like that.
Oh,
In your
yeah.
opinion?
Well, I wasn't that kind of supply. I dealt
Oh,
with the gear for, well, I dealt with like the vehicles. So we had like tank equipment, like tank engines and transmissions and tires and things like that, because we supported the entire base and who whatever foreign country came over to train on our base. But we shared a warehouse with the people that did have the SIF gear that you're mentioning, and yeah, they are a lot better.
Salt Dog
Got
over
the
here
edit.
talking about woodland packs. This
We
guy.
had those in boot camp. Like that was the stuff that we like had in the water.
Nice. Good stuff. Yeah. Well, cool. So tell us a little bit about like the best parts and the worst parts of your time while you're in. Would love to hear just your experience with the Marine Corps overall.
I say the best part always to me is the camaraderie. You can really never get that anywhere else. You can't replicate it unless you're around your fellow Marines. Even with other branches, it's still kind of not the same because they can relate in only some regard. But camaraderie, my biggest thing, because you create a family there with the people beside you. I say the worst part is the running because I'm very bad at running. I was they say the whole Marine concept, running was not my strong suit, but I had everything else.
Nice. Yeah. Definitely some mornings when no one wants to run, so I think we might have that all in common at some point. For I guess so, okay, you were in for 8 years. You mentioned you were active and you were reserve. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit about how that switch went and how it differed?
Um, very, very different on the front of I was at Marfa Res down in New Orleans. And there is just a very big building that had everybody in there. And so it was at one point, I'm the only female there and a corporal. I think I was the only one that was a corporal. Then it went straight up to like staff sergeant and master sergeant. And I saw the lance corporal like shooting the shit with the warrant officer. I was like, hold on, man, what's going on? Like y'all buddies or something? And then it was like, hold on, it's not like that, we're different here. So it was an adjustment that I had to make.
Yeah, I could definitely see where you're coming from on that one. Sounds funny. But okay, so then you ended up getting out. So why did you ultimately decide to get out of the Marine Corps?
It was pretty much the reason for them forcing me to be into standards because I had a C-section in January and I had a hernia repair in December, and they wanted me to run a PFT in January.
Good
And
lord.
I failed it because after you fail one thing, you can't go to the next. So I failed the run by, I mean, to not work out for a long time. I think I did pretty good. I think I ran for like 43 minutes on the 3 mile, and they wanted me to do crunches and stuff. I'm like, sir, like I had a baby, I can't do this, and a C-section at that. So they was like, all right, you failed. You're running it tomorrow and your CFT tomorrow. I was like, you know what? Process me out. I'm not coming back here ever again. But that wasn't at Marfa Reds. It was at a base in Biloxi. And those were the people that was doing that.
Yeah, it sounds strange that they would try to do that.
Very strange. And I was
Yeah,
supposed to get out as an E5, but because I didn't run a PFT, because I was pregnant and then I had a C-section, they was like, oh, you haven't ran one in like 3 years. Is no reason why you're like this. I'm like, well, I mean, I can't help it. Like you were supposed to run it in the system that I can't. So,
gotcha. Yeah, no, that's unfortunate. Sorry that was how things kind of ended, but hopefully you remember the good times as well
oh yes.
from the other times, of course. But okay, so then you transitioned out of the Marine Corps. You didn't get straight into tech, so tell us kind of what you decided to do right after you got out.
After I got out, I just enrolled in college, and I did that, and I just was a stay-at-home mom with my daughter for I say a good bit of time, maybe until about the mid 2020, and that's when I found a job in Houston. So I moved from Mississippi to Houston to become a inventory specialist for a lumber company. And I was like, oh, I don't really like this. Let me see what do I really like. So I was actually in a coffee shop and I came across a venture capitalist, and he was talking to me about blockchain and things like that. And then I was like, okay. So I dived into blockchain, and it kind of went from there in the tech.
Classic venture capitalist talking about blockchain.
Hmm.
We actually have a guest coming up to VC. I'll ask him about some blockchain activities.
Oh, I love
So,
blockchain.
okay, yeah, let's talk about that. So, you then found out about some blockchain. So, walk us through how you actually got your first role, what it was, um, and yeah, how you got into it.
Well, I didn't get a role in blockchain. Are you talking about my first role in tech or?
Yeah, in tech in general, and we can progress from there. But let's talk
Okay.
about that first role, how you got it, what it was, all that.
Okay. So my first role in tech was help desk technician for a small MSP. And MSP means managed service providers for anybody who don't know what that is. And I just kind of, they found me. I didn't find them. So I just like previously I had went to a school that taught me and got all of these different certifications. And then after that, I was like, oh man, I got to find me a job, because I was unemployed for a year and a half. So within that year and a half, I was just upskilling and transitioning myself into tech. And I got four certifications within 6 months, which was Security Plus, CYSA, and the Certified Ethical Hacker and the Splunk Core User. So I got all of those. And then the company that was like, hey, you applied to us. Why do you want to work for us? I'm like, aren't y'all paying and don't y'all need a worker, type of thing. So they brought me into the interview and I pretty much had it by the time I left out. I think they were just trying to play a little bit. So as soon as I got home, they called me to let me know that I landed the job. And from there, I've been in the role for about a year. And in April, kind of March, they transitioned me to a new role within the company for compliance because we're working on compliance as a service, which is going to be a really big thing because of the hacking and all the regulations that need to be, I guess the word just left me. The like how everything is going on with the landscape and information technology, everything is getting reassessed and things like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, we that's a lot of good information. Let's go deeper into that. So you initially started off by saying before you even got a job, you got a few certs. Can you again talk us through what those certs were, what they entail? Yeah, just general idea of what they are, because I'm actually unfamiliar with most of those.
Okay. So the first one was Security Plus. I went through Intellectual Point because they were accepting the vet tech program. And I was like, okay, I'm interested in tech. What can I do? Because at first I did started learning front end development on my own, and I went through a course with that too. And then I kind of segued into cybersecurity because I wanted to merge blockchain and cybersecurity. So I was like, I could see how that could go. And from there, well, Security Plus was first, which is basically the frontline certification for cybersecurity, in my opinion. And then from there, I went to the Certified Ethical Hacker, and that one by EC Council. I mean, that was pretty easy to pass, but I guess it was just the training that I had. And the CYSA, that was a doozy because it took me like a while to like really study for that one. But that one is the cybersecurity analyst certification. And I was basically trying to stack certs in a way to where I can ultimately get a job working for the government or be my own contractor, to contract myself out to government work.
And when you say that, is that something the government is looking for that you said you would try to do that? Was that the original goal you said?
Well,
So
it wasn't the original goal, but as I'm going through my career and things like that, I'm seeing that it is something that they would like, such as they have IAM. I'm not sure what it's called, but I think it's like a IAM one. 2, 3, and things like that. So for IAM, you must have a certain amount of certifications to qualify. So for me, I have the Security Plus and the Certified Ethical Hacker. Therefore, I would be eligible for it. And I also have the CYSA as well. And I'm to go further into it, you'll just have to get another cert that's within that level. So now I'm studying for the CISSP.
Gotcha. Now, for someone that's just listening to this, still in the military and is trying to, I guess, figure out what to do, would you recommend one of those certs or all of them to try to get your first job in this field? And what are the concepts that are actually tested there?
I would say definitely don't do what I did because I suffered burnout like really quick. Um, but I mean, I guess it was worth it in some sense, but maybe not to others because the Certified Ethical Hacker is a very expensive certification. It's, I believe, $1,200. But if you do go through with their GI Bill, I think they'll pay a certain amount on it. So, but I wouldn't recommend somebody do what I did unless they're really for it and know exactly what they want to do. Because some certifications will be for certain portions or, I guess, certain aspects of cybersecurity for blue team, red team, etc. Because I have blue team certifications. Well, not the ethical hacker, that's a red team, but still. Um,
I feel like
but
I'm
I
gonna keep
forgot
going.
the
I'm gonna keep going down this hole here. What is blue versus red and all that?
Okay, so blue team versus red team. Red team is basically you're being on the offense. So you're the one that's going after people and things like that. And blue team is where you're defending yourself. And then they also have purple team to where red and blue are on the same team doing the same thing. Um, and then there are white hat hackers to where, well, I think that's something different. No, never mind.
Well, yeah, there's like the white hat, there's like the gray hat and the black
Gray hat,
hat.
black hat. Yeah, but that's,
Yeah,
yeah,
that comes in because I know when because we do hackathons and stuff like that, and we've never done one on cybersecurity per se, but a lot of cybersecurity people come up. They're like, "Do you guys do red versus blue type stuff?" And I'm like, "I've never done a cybersecurity hackathon. Maybe we should do it in the future." But we get approached by like I think white hat hackers are like um, they're like kind of like legal straight edge
yes,
type, and the black hat ones are deep
nefarious.
like nefarious. Yeah, great way to
It's a
explain it.
better term, yeah.
So, okay, so let's say, and we're gonna dive deeper into your actual roles and kind of the day in the life and all that in a second. But since we're on the topic, is there one specifically someone you would recommend someone to get?
Security Plus.
Security Plus to start off with is what you're saying. Okay.
Yes, that's pretty much the one that you want to start off with if you know you're good. You're going to go the cybersecurity route. If you're going to go maybe the networking realm, I would recommend the Network Plus and the A Plus. If you don't know, well, the A Plus would be if you don't really know what the components of a computer is, and to know the different cabling and things like that. Networking, that's when you actually get into how networks operate and how they run, which would be good if you want to be like a network engineer in a CCNA route, things like that.
And what does the Security Plus one kind of cover?
The Security Plus covers the basics of cybersecurity. Like they say that it's a mile wide and an inch deep because it covers a vast amount of topics. Um, so it's just saying, hey, I know about everything, but I don't know pretty much the ins and out of every single thing. So when I went to my CYSA, which is I would say the next certification up, I carried that information over into passing that exam as well because it's teaching me about say it's teaching me about a server in Security Plus. It's telling me what a server is, but in the CYSA, it'll tell me, okay, what is Active Directory on a server? So now you're getting into the actual components and how it's ran over here with other certs.
Gotcha. And you said you're studying for what? CISSP? What was that one?
Yes, that one is Certified Information Security.
Professional.
It's yes. I'm missing a S up in there somewhere, but yes, it's basically the top tier certification of cybersecurity. But a lot of people they are in for 20 years and still don't have it. And there's some people that come in their first year within cybersecurity, they go and get it. Like for me, it's certain criteria you must meet in order to have it. But I'm like, you know what? Why not? If I have the means to learn it, and why not do it? But I think beginners are better at passing certifications because we have no knowledge, and it's easy to learn it versus you already being in it and you're having your own thoughts and processes how you do things. Because my friend, he was studying for the CEH, but he failed it once before. And I started telling him how I passed it and was coaching him through it. And he ended up passing that way. I'm like, act like you know nothing
S-
and go from there.
Sounds like the shooting range. People who end up doing well are people who have never touched a weapon before, and then a lot of people who have been shooting their whole life come in with some bad habits and try to
Yeah,
forget the coach's advice and all this stuff. So, yeah, definitely some parallels there.
great
It also,
analogy.
yeah, and it also sounds like the learning never stops. I know I'm a software engineer. There's always this new tech stuff coming out. There's always this new whatever popping up. Um, but when you get these certs, are these certs been around for a very long time, or are they constantly changing and all this stuff? Like, is it a constant learning thing going on?
Yes, it is a constant learning thing because they change every 3 years. And from what I am seeing, well, yeah, everything is changing right now. So this year and last year, a lot of certifications changed, such as the Security Plus just changed in July. And you have to continuously keep learning throughout those 3 years through CEUs, which is continuing education units, and you have to submit them in order to re reapply for your certification, or you have to retake the exam.
Interesting. Yeah, didn't know that. That's pretty cool. So, okay, let's dive back to the two roles. So you start off as help desk and then went to compliance engineer. Can you start with help desk and tell us what that actually is, day in the life of? Like, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis as far as what it entails, and the skills you need to get that job?
Well, help desk, come in the morning and hop on the computer, pull up all of the platforms and things we'll need to use throughout the day, and just start handling and taking calls. So you'll use RMM, which is a remoting application. You'll use something such as a calling application where where users will call you through the application, and you'll remote into their computer and you'll get whatever done. The majority of the job was printers. Like people just don't know how to set up their own printers, or and those things take the longest, like 3 freaking hours to figure out what's wrong with their printer. It's so annoying, but you were happy when you figured out, oh man, okay. But you'll have to deal with a lot of unruly customers because some are laid back to where, all right, you got it, handle it, do what you need to do. I'm just here. And there's some people that will try to tell you what to do as you're doing it. And then it's like, why did you call me if you know what to do, type of thing. Or you just get the blatant disrespectful ones where they're like, I want to talk to such and such because they know you're the new person and you can't do it as fast as the other person. So I got a lot of kickback with how I was as a person because it took me a long time to actually, I guess, be within that role and not like, well, let me tell you like this. So I got a lot of complaints in my role because of how I was speaking to the customers. But to me, I didn't think that I was speaking to them a certain way. But being from the Marine Corps, it is a little awkward speaking to civilians and things like that. So it was a very big learning curve because of the pandemic, and I was unemployed. I'm not talking to people every day. I'm just kind of alone. So I had to pick up the habit of um, speaking, I guess, better and being aware of my tone of voice and things like that.
That makes sense. Yeah. Was there anything that I guess finally helped you with that? Was it just time or
I would say intention and self awareness help the most, which is what I believe everyone needs to further their career. Because I'm very big on self awareness because I get that from JJ did top buckle. One of them is know yourself and your Marines. So I prided myself on that to always know myself continuously. So nobody should tell me how I am. I should already know.
nice? Yeah, no, that's great advice there. So it sounds like help desk. Okay, so you kind of go in and take calls, help customers with different things, and kind of reminded me of Office Space. You ever seen Office Space, the movie with the printer when they're like breaking the printer with the bats and all that? I feel like that would be you.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we yeah, that was something. But it was rewarding in a way of it's not always printers. It's sometimes you have to migrate their Office 365 licenses or something. It since we're so small, we deal with a variety of issues. And it's really nice because you're always learning something every single day. But it is a big learning curve.
Gotcha. And then now let's move to after that. You started as a compliance engineer. What does that actually mean? What is it? Or as Jamil would say, explain it. What is it that you said, Jamil?
Oh, I was like, how would you explain what a compliance engineer? Because it's so, it can be considered foreign and new. How would you explain that to like your grandma, for example?
You know what? I have to explain to my uncle, and I sounded real crazy trying to do that. So let me try again.
Yeah.
So there are many there are many things you can call yourself, I guess, in the compliance area because there's a compliance analyst or specialist or engineer, whatever. But I guess I would align more with the engineer because I'm building out a new program from the ground up. So a compliance engineer, it's based off of governance, risk, and compliance. The governance portion is basically uh, letting everyone know what needs to happen and how. So you're governing to ensure that people are doing what they need to do per the policies, procedures, and etc. The risk portion is to know the risk that's involved with the company and the organization and tending to that and risk mitigation. And the compliance sector is to ensure that you are in compliance with the rules, regulations, policies, procedures, or things of the government, such as the DoD if you're a subcontractor for them.
Gotcha.
Did that help? Y'all understand?
Yeah, definitely. And then I know, listeners may want to get in this role. What is the actual day in the life? Typical, I'm sure everything, like anything, it changes, but what does a kind of typical day, week look like?
Well, again, so since this is a small MSP and we're just now starting this compliance program, I don't really have the day in life of a person that's just coming into a already established program. So building it from the ground up, it is not sexy work at all. So I am pushing out policies and procedures and disaster recovery plans, and it is taking a while. And I've been in this role for about 4 months now, and I've come a little far, but yeah. So I've come up with about 15 things total. so far out of those policies, procedures of a very long laundry list. But not everything needs to be implemented. But right now, we're working with the client to be because they're a subcontractor of the government. So it's things that I have to do within the program to help ensure that we're in compliance with the government so our client can be in compliance with the government, if that makes sense as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Question I was going to ask later, but it makes sense to ask now is kind of what does the interview process for something like this look like?
Um,
For in general, maybe yours was a little different, or maybe you have friends who did it and theirs is different, but what's a kind of general interview process look like?
um, I would say a general entry process because it's a non-technical role. It helps to know a few technical things, but I would say learning up on the frameworks such as the NIST, CMMC, with the NIST CSF, they have the NIST RMF, Risk Management Framework, and the NIST SP 800 53, um, and the dash 171. So it's a lot of different number things going on, but learning the frameworks is pretty much your foot in the door because you'll learn what industries need it and what industries don't because you can go the HIPAA route and work as a healthcare compliance, or you could be in the financial side and work as PCI DSS compliance, um, and also IT compliance. So it's different routes you can go within different industries because it is a non-technical role.
Gotcha. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, definitely clear some things up.
I wanted to touch back on how you mentioned you liked blockchain. Can you talk to us about what excites you about blockchain?
What excites me about blockchain is the fact that you can do so much with it as though it is um, front end development and the back end of it as well. So I've created more than a few projects myself, being a blockchain developer, and it's just really nice to see how you can create something out of what people call thin air. Like, oh, the blockchain isn't real. It is very real. It's just a lot of people use it in a nefarious way to make it seem as though it holds no value. Because I love Bitcoin and what it stands for. I'm not a maxi as they call it, but I love how Bitcoin is the end, not the end all be all, but that's pretty much the big catalyst of blockchain. And I just like the way that it can free you as a society, as a person. Just don't do nothing illegal with it because they can still find you, and you can't escape it if you turn it into like legal tender. So if you turn it into U.S. dollars, they're going to get you. You can't escape it. So
I think part of the thing that makes it people wary is all the NFT rug pulls, all the pump and dump schemes of the funny coins out there. But yeah, there's definitely some good use cases around the world, especially if your currency has a lot of inflation. I've heard interesting stories from Argentina of them getting paid and then transferring it to kind of crypto to be more stable potentially. So I think I think the future is interesting with that. Is there
yeah,
specific languages you use? I know there's a ton of different blockchains, a ton of different languages within blockchain, Solidity, Haskell, all kinds of stuff. Is there anything you've kind of used?
um, all of the all of the adapts and things that I've made were with Solidity. So that was my language. And to touch on what you were saying, um, there is there is a country that's actually all blockchain called Ethonia, if I'm saying that correctly. Everything about them is blockchain, like from their healthcare to how they pay to get their fare on the bus and things like that. It's just the best use case. But they're a small country, so they can really get away with that. But I don't know how they'll go on a larger grand scale. But um, yeah, and the other great use case that I was looking into was helping music artists because we all know they get very bad deals when it comes to their music, and sometimes you don't see the light of day. They don't have access to their masters. And if you put their things on a blockchain, that money can go free flowing back to them versus going through agencies and things like that.
Nice. Um, yeah, I'm a big fan of Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain technology. There's a veterans organization that comes to mind. I'm not sure if you've heard of them. They're called Vets in Crypto.
Hmm.
They're really worth checking out. They're active on Twitter. But I wanted to jump back on the compliance side of things. Charnice, if you could talk about like some interesting stories. Have you heard of any like crazy compliance loopholes that you've might have heard of?
Not necessarily. You just see people not seeing the value in it. That's the biggest portion of compliance. Like, oh, we don't need that. Well, I mean, you're kind of going to have to get it when the government gets to you. It's not, we don't need it. It's a when will you need it? And it's best to already have things in place so it's easier for you when the government does put the hammer down on you. So, but that also ties into the cybersecurity aspect since I'm more of a IT compliance. So for me, you have people saying, "Oh, we don't need this," or "We're not going to get hacked," or things of, "Oh, I don't have any data." So a story that I like to bring up is say that your the person that's over your finances in a company, your CFO, they were to click a link or something that transfers $40,000 to another bank account than what they intended. And that money covered all of your payroll for the month. So all those people go without getting paid. Like, how does that look on you as a CFO to click that link and be solely responsible? And the bank will not pay you back because it's a business account. So if you're in compliant and you actually had measures set in place to stop these things, wouldn't that be worth this $40,000 and your reputation?
Yes, sir. Um, yeah, I agree. I think there's a ton of value that might get hidden in the shadows or might not be prioritized, but love the way you explained it. Um, could you talk about the best and worst parts of IT compliance you've experienced so far?
Um, I would say not having people to have your back is the worst portion of the job. So if the team or if you don't have supervisors backing you, it'll make it that much harder to do your job. Because if they're not backing you, what makes you think um, the little guys are going to even care what you're saying? So if there needs to be things to be implemented and you're just kind of brushing off the compliance person, it's going to fall back on you because I'm letting you know over and over what needs to be done. But let this pen test show you what I've been telling you. So
Yeah, it's interesting. And kind of going back to um, resources you use. I know you talked about those different certs to get into the role. What did you use to actually study for those and to pass them?
well, I went through Intellectual Point, so they provided me with the flashcards and the study materials that I needed. But I'll say I pretty much studied for the CYSA on my own. Um, the biggest thing that was helpful was the book for it with Mike Chappell and flashcards. So learning the definitions of things, I feel with any type of certification is your bread and butter, because that pretty much sets the foundation for all the questions. Because if they're asking for what is a 802.1x is, like, I don't fucking know. But if you looked at the flashcards or know the definition of it, oh, you'll know that has something to deal with Wi-Fi. And it's like, oh, okay, I can answer this question in a proper context. And that was the best way for me to pass all of my certifications, by knowing the definitions and what things meant.
And intellectual point, is that what is that? Is that a schoolhouse? What?
It's a company that works with people that want to get certified with the government. If you want to solely do it yourself, or if your company wants to do it, um, they're pretty much all around like place to get different certifications of all backgrounds within the IT cyberspace. Um, and they're very good to veterans. I know that for sure.
And I know earlier you mentioned vet tech. I actually used vet tech to go through the Kona boot camp I went to, but now vet tech is actually no longer a thing as of earlier this year, unless it comes back. But can you use GI Bill on that, or how much did that cost, if you remember?
Yes, you can use the GI Bill and also VRNE as well. Um, it's certain things you can't use the VRNE with, which is the CISA, which is what I wanted to do. But because the CISA is a certified information systems auditor, that's the one I wanted to do. But because they didn't take it, I went the CISSP route, which the VRNE does cover. If not, it would be about 2,500 out of pocket.
Gotcha. And you also mentioned earlier you would do things differently, as far as, um, go for that security plus, maybe do a little bit less upfront so you don't get burned out. Is there any other advice? Let's say you're going back to the beginning, if you're really trying to get into this tech role, what advice would you give yourself, aka someone else right now that's maybe leaving the military and trying to be a compliance engineer? Like, what would they do to get there, step by step, if you will?
I would say find a mentor. That would be the best advice, because without a mentor, I still don't have one. Well, my friend kind of is one, because he teaches different certifications for a living. But the advice I would give people is to, for sure, get a mentor, or at least someone who's willing to help. Um, because if I would have known there are non-technical roles sooner, I would have probably pursued those, versus trying to stuff all this knowledge into my brain and looking crazy when I go in for an interview, because they want X, X, and X and Y, Z, A, B for you to know. And it's just, it'll be a lot easier if you know the full scope of things. Because I think now people are getting that aha that, like, there is more to cybersecurity than just coding, or looking at logs and hacking and things of that nature.
Yeah, it's great advice. As far as finding a mentor, again, that's part of the reason we started this podcast, is just to get some people on here to talk about their roles, hopefully share their LinkedIn. People can reach out to them. Or they can just watch the pod and kind of learn something. So, yeah, hopefully, people will reach out to you if they have more questions later on.
And I happily invite them. Like, I have so many people I don't know and I do know that want to get into cyber, and I'm very eager to help anyone that needs it. And I'll even study with you.
It's awesome. Um, when I was in, like, all this stuff was just kind of not exposed. It was out of sight, out of mind. How do you think we can amp up, like, cybersecurity, IT compliance, blockchain? How do we get more active duty and veterans, like, amped up on this field?
I would say more awareness, but it's still a lot of different things that I'm not aware of that other people know. So I think like maybe if we were to combine like a place to have all resources that we can contribute to, like say that there's like different fields, or like I'm envisioning a website to where people can just type in something and then it goes to, okay, if you're into um, this form of tech, go here, or if you're like this, go here. Oh, another piece of advice I would recommend to people is know yourself. If you know that you don't like to do X, Y, and Z, why are you getting a role that requires that, or pursuing a path that is making you be on call all the time, away from your family? Or if you know you don't like to talk to people, or you have an attitude problem, don't go to help desk. So, uh, like if you like to be bossy or tell somebody what to do or something, maybe compliance could be for you, because, or auditing, because I mean, you're telling them what to do, you're telling them what's wrong, how to fix it, and things like that. So know yourself in that
That
regard.
makes sense. Um, and again, we kind of have to touch on this because everyone's talking about AI. Is there, first of all, do you use AI at all in your role? And if you do or don't, how? But also, what kind of long term effect or changes do you think AI will make in your field if you've thought about it so far?
Right now, I do not use AI. I just use that personally, but I can see the landscape changing a lot with AI, with how certain tools are that we would use. So for like creating policies and documents and things would probably be a lot easier, or spreadsheets, or gap analysis for seeing where you're lacking in certain areas within the organization. I think if AI were to make spreadsheets a lot easier and faster with input, that could make the job a lot easier for us. But somebody made the great point that um, AI won't be replacing jobs. People who know AI will be replacing your job, which is good to know because you might want to get on it.
Yeah, you can definitely use it to your advantage. I think, at least in the short term, people who leverage it at work or in their roles will be more successful or just produce faster than those who don't. So definitely think people should start looking into it.
Yeah, Michael, do you want to talk about just how people can reach Charnice?
Yeah, Charnice graciously said she would let us put her LinkedIn information in the description, and is more than happy to help you and, I believe, study with you. You said so. Um,
Yeah,
Please reach out to her if you have any questions. We'll link that in the description. And again, I just want to thank you for coming on here. I learned a lot about compliance and the different certs and all that, and I bet our listeners did as well. So thank you again.
my pleasure. Thank you all for having me.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure. It's always a deep pleasure to speak with another devil dog. But yeah, hopefully we stay in touch, and we'll link any resources that we talked about. We'll post those in the channel description. And for folks that are listening, if you want to connect with us, we'll also post our social media channels in the description as well. So feel free to reach out, give descriptions. But yeah, thanks again for joining us on this podcast, and hope to
Thanks.
catch you on the next one.
See you guys.